Good evening and welcome to the UpSet podcast. It's Black History Month, but what does it mean to be Black? We're talking about it. Coming up next. All right. Okay. Welcome back to the UpSet podcast. Do you guys bop with that too when it comes on?
Yeah.
All right. Thanks so much for joining us on this Sunday. And I'm so happy that I never have to show up on Sunday alone, because why would I when I have these wonderful people to join me? Hey, guys.
Howdy.
Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday. And it's not Super Bowl Sunday. It's behind us.
Yeah.
Lord.
This
And
is
what
like
happened?
was last week, wasn't it?
I know it seemed like it was a while
Who
ago.
won that
but-
game, incidentally?
Jesus.
Yeah, just congratulations to all the Eagles fans out
Yeah,
there.
look at that. He choked up saying,
Yeah, I did. I'm not gonna lie. I thought Mahomes was going to get number 3, but congratulations to all the Eagles fans. I mean, that was a straight up butt whipping.
Mhm.
it was
It
indeed.
was.
Thorough.
I turned it on. I think it was like towards the end of the second quarter, and when I saw the score, I was like 0-0 to. I'm like, what is happening here? This is not how it's supposed to go. I thought they'd have at least 1 point, but
Yeah, so far that's the most watched Super Bowl game.
Oh,
wow.
I know the halftime was for sure. But,
The game and halftime show.
Wow.
hey, hello, Mike Williams.
Hey, Mike.
Hello.
Hey,
Good
Rosalie.
evening. It's Rosalie. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, I saw the coverage of the parade, and I know quite a few people who were out there were you out there, Tally? Friday?
I was downtown. I didn't go to the parade, and I figured I could sneak downtown because everybody would be at the parade. I have never seen so many people in the city of Philadelphia walking around. And it's like everybody had on Eagles gear, and
Yeah.
it was a really good spirit in the city, and I'm hoping that it'll continue.
Yeah, I heard the GM got hit with a beer bottle.
They have a tradition of throwing beers to the players when they ride in on the parade trucks.
Oh.
And the GM, now we know why he's a GM and not a wide receiver, because that beer can went right through his hands and popped him in the cranium.
Jeez.
Oh, wow. That's a mess. Wow. Look at that.
Jeez.
Hey, Mary. Thanks for joining us. And there we go, Pastor Cox. Hello.
Oh.
Good evening to you all. Glad you're joining us this
Okay.
evening. Glad you're here.
Shout out to
That's right.
Bowie.
What's up? Yeah, so yesterday we for some of you were watching, I know our 80th, celebrating the 80th of Allegheny, the formation of Allegheny Conference, our mother conference. So kicked it off with a panel discussion last evening at Emmanuel Brinklow. And I want to give a shout out to my friend. She came up to me after the service, and she said she watches every Sunday. And I told her I was so grateful for her to come and up and say hello and to share that with me. So if you're watching, hi, it was nice to meet you.
Did you remember her name or?
I know. Tally, why do you have to come?
Right.
Tally, read the room, okay? I did. I'm so sorry. I didn't recall your name, but it was good. It was
Yeah.
good.
I had a similar encounter on Friday at GE Peters. I think her name is Mrs. Smith.
Oh, see, that was an easy one.
Oh yeah, I mean, really, come on.
I'll take full credit. Okay.
You really stretched hard on that one, Mig.
She was so sweet, though. She was so sweet. Yes. Pastor Grissom is Bill should have been there, but my second favorite team won. Okay, so
Well, you know what they say, Gris. The stone that the builders rejected, and I mean, just like Isaac was second and became first, and just like Joseph was not first and became first. The Eagles might not have been your first team, but they're first in your heart.
Mhm. There you go, Tal. Oh yeah, shout out.
See, I got 2 more weeks.
I
got 2 more weeks, and it's time to wrap it up.
I know, right? No, I feel like after the parade, a little bit of it's already kind of. But some people say, they're just going to be on the high for the rest of the year based on this win. And I hey, who are we to steal people's joy, right?
There's something to be said about a city that was in such deep need of a win.
Mm.
I mean, really, there were over 1 million people out there.
Yeah.
It's unprecedented, and they were really celebrating like they had actually played themselves. Because,
exactly. I was looking at all these families.
Yeah. And they put some money on this. Somebody told me I put some money on this. That's my team. I'm on the team.
Well, yeah, that's another thing too for all of those who bet and won on the game. They might be celebrating for another reason as well. So.
Yeah, I read somewhere. I think ESPN said that they was projecting that 1.83 billion would be spent on gambling on the Super Bowl.
Wow.
Jeez.
Mercy.
So some people tally, they be like, hey, I'm on the team.
Point made.
When they win, I win. Yeah. That's right. I get it. That's true. That's true. Shout out. All right. Anything else going on this week that caught you guys' eyes?
Something that caught my attention, and I'd say kudos. I was listening to Keenan Tyler's sermon, and he made mention of the fact that he is actually a cousin to the young girl who was the principal figure in Brown versus Board of Education, Topeka, Kansas, that led to the desegregation of schools in our country. Did I get that right, Keenan?
Well, my uncle, who was retired in the Army, he retired in Topeka, Kansas, and so he married the sister of Linda Brown. So Linda Brown is the girl, is Senator Brown versus Board of Education. So he married her sister.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
So you're connected to history.
Yeah. So as a kid, I had no idea what I was watching as a kid. You 4 or 5 years old. But Linda Brown, her family, they would send us VHS, like home documentaries of where she had to walk to school, the all-black school, and go crossing the train tracks. Like she walked us through the whole thing, and it showed us how close the all-white school was. So, as a kid, I'm not even understanding what I'm watching. It wasn't until I got older, I'm like, oh, my widow's tapes, and we couldn't even find them.
Wow.
It made the sermon have a greater level of integrity and closeness, and that was impressive.
Oh, praise God, glory to God.
It's cool.
Go check it out at Shiloh SDA.
I was gonna say, I'm gonna have to put the link in the chat for the folk to go hear it firsthand. We'll do that. We'll share that. Wow.
Indeed.
Yeah, we like sharing those little known history facts in terms of the connection some of us have to some well-known acts here. I'll find it while we're talking. I'll post it in the chat.
Tyler, I tell you, I really took that for granted. It's like, Mom, why are you making me watch this?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the videos was less than 10 minutes long. It's like 3 of them.
Oh, I wonder if anybody else has a copy. Now I really want to see
Well,
it.
for their lawyers, so the family lawyer, because my mom's professor at Medgar Evers University in Brooklyn, New York, wanted a copy of it, and the lawyers wouldn't allow that. They said, "No, you can't share that. That's just for your family. You can't share it." So,
wow. Okay. Wow. Okay. Well, thanks for sharing that, Tally. That sermon was "The Spirit Breaks Chains." Is that the same? Okay. All right. We got it. We'll share it. All right. Great. Well. Oh, Pastor Grissom, you're still talking about the Bills. It's okay. Right.
Let it go. Let it go, man. Let it go.
Time for us to move on now. Okay. But no, we definitely are looking forward to our conversation this evening because we know that we are at this point in the middle, almost on our way towards the end of Black History Month. And we always like to highlight some aspect of this month in a slightly different way each year. And sometimes it seems straightforward. Black History Month, right? Everybody knows what we mean when we say black, right? But sometimes that question is not always as straightforward as it sounds. And so we want to talk about that this evening. But first, let's have a proper introduction. Tally?
Yeah, and then I'll turn it over to the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Miggs, and he'll carry us deeper into conversation. But I remember when I was coming along, there was a song by a Philadelphia artist by the name of Billy Paul, and the title of the song was "Am I Black Enough for You?" I don't know if any of you remember that. And it asked that question, "Am I black enough for you?" But the question that really needs to be asked is, when you think about it, and today we want to explore this a little bit. We want to talk about, what are we talking about when we talk about blackness? Can we really define it? What is this thing called blackness, and what do we mean when we say, "Oh, that ain't black," or "That is black," or "You don't know, you're not acting black"? And we ask ourselves some questions here. What is blackness? When you think of blackness, when you think of blackness from a point of excellence, is it the guy who goes to college and gets the three-piece suit and the briefcase and gets a fine job and is able to afford the house in the suburbs and so forth? Or when you think of blackness, are you thinking about somebody in the hood who really is in a hood and, wearing the baggy jeans, representing with attitude and flavor? Or is blackness somewhere in the middle where ethnic representation through your clothing and your other aspects of being tell people that you are black? I mean, which one is it? Which one is actually black? Or all of them black, or none of them black? The real problem when it comes to trying to identify blackness is that it's really difficult to hit the target because the target keeps on moving. Black was this, black was that, black was the other. It's all over the place. And we never really kind of understand what it means to be black because it keeps shifting on us. And there's a reason why definitions of blackness keep shifting, because populations and communities of blackness keep shifting. Let me run the numbers for you about blackness as far as people go. In the 1900s, there were approximately 9 million black people in the United States of America. Not just 9 million black people. They were only 11% of the population, and 90% of them lived below the Mason-Dixon line in the South. 90% of all black people in 1900 lived down in the South, and 96% or more of them were descended from people who came to these shores from Africa, having been enslaved. So in those days, blackness was pretty clear. It was a Southern thing mostly, descended from African slaves, and the culture was kind of well defined. But by the time you got to the late 1950s, after what's called the Great Migration, 6 million of those people left the South and they went to places like Detroit and Cleveland and Philadelphia. And some of them went to Milwaukee and New York and Boston. 6 million black people left the South, about 1/3 of the black population. And black people, the numbers swelled to 18 million as a part of the population, growing to about 13% of the national population. Still, most of these black people were connected to the South and connected to Africans who had been enslaved. But things changed in the 1960s through the 1970s. There were acts in Congress, immigration acts, that allowed for the opening of doors that introduced more black people from more places around this planet who had not had the experiences of being descended from formerly enslaved Africans. Some of them came, the majority of them actually came from the Caribbean. Some of them came from Africa. Some of them came from countries in Central America. And then came the 1980s. Now, the 1980s, not only did we see a change in where people were coming from, but black people started leaving the North and going back down South. More black people moved down South than moved up North. It was reverse migration. That's what allowed for Atlanta, Georgia to have a black mayor. That's what allowed for the blackening of cities like Birmingham and Montgomery, Charlotte, North Carolina. People began to move back down south. So black people now, were they Southern? Were they Northern? Were they somewhere in between? You had black folks moving from everywhere. But not only that, you also had a large number of black people coming in from Jamaica, Haiti, Nigeria, other West Coast African countries. And now you've got people living everywhere, coming from everywhere, really different. So just to sum it up, in the 1970s, only 1 in 100 black people were of immigrant stock. Nowadays, 1 in 10 black people in this country are connected to immigrant stock. If not first, they're second, no more than second. 1 in 10 from 1 in 100. There are 40 million black people in the United States right now. And these people, 20% of them are foreign born. So we have to ask ourselves some questions when we talk about blackness. Does it mean that you're descended from a slave? When you talk about reparations, say black people need reparations. Why? Because of slavery. Well, suppose you're in this country, you're black, and you're not descended from slaves. Is it culture? Blackness has to be more than culture because it used to be Southern culture. Then it became urban culture. And now urban no longer even means black anymore. So it has to be more than culture. Blackness has to be more about where you come from. Before it was, we came from the west coast of Africa. But now black people, I just left a church where the majority of the black people there come from the Caribbean. Sometimes you go to church, they come from Haiti. Sometimes it's Nigeria. But it's more than where you come from. It's more than culture. And it is more than experience. There was a time you identified as black because your ancestors had been enslaved and you went through the withering experience of Jim Crow. But there are black people who live in this country now who did not go through Jim Crow. They don't understand what that's all about, except philosophically. And last but not least, it's more than beliefs. It used to be that you go to any black house and there was a picture of Martin Luther King and Jesus on the wall. But now you go to houses and Jesus is some guy named Jesus to them. You know, they don't know. They might be Buddhist. They may be Muslim. They may be Zoroastrian. So it's not culture. It's not origins. It's not experience. It's not beliefs. So the question is asked, what does it mean to be black? Now, the bad news is that I don't have a definitive answer. But the good news, ladies and gentlemen, is that I associate with people who have wisdom that is incarnate, who have intellect that is superlative, and who are able to articulate their answers in ways that you cannot miss the meaning of their statement. So I turn it over to them, this august panel of interlocutors. What say you one? What say you all? What does it mean to be black, Miggs? Take it away.
I'm so glad that I've renounced my association with you because I don't know who he's referring to there. But I think there's some difficulties, as you mentioned. You've highlighted some, I think, even within the 70s and 80s and even the 90s for sure. We began to package, hip hop and present it to the world as a representation of the Black community. And so the question is, are we what we advertise to be? With hip hop, we've given the voice to what used to be the voiceless, to the underserved, and it was a platform to voice certain issues and to highlight certain elements. And I know, especially as church members and in good standing, some of those images and some of those things that hip hop has presented come in conflict with what we would believe to be proper representation of the Black community. But to be honest with you, it doesn't just start in the 80s or the 90s. There's a story of a Black person attending Yale, and they were going to a party, and on the door to the party is a brown paper bag.
Oh, yeah, heard about that. Yeah.
So at one point, it was Blackness and white acceptability was the standard. Can you pass? Are you light enough? Is your hair straight enough? Then we kind of see things going in the opposite direction. You know, James Brown, I'm black and I'm proud.
Mhm.
You know, even the name black, we didn't identify with blackness until, 1900s. We were Negroes before then, which was, kind of borrowed from the Spanish, the Spanish and Portuguese, which were the pioneers of, this whole racial thing that we're dealing with in slavery. And so we're trying to pinpoint, what does it mean to be black? I think at the heart of it, we got to look at, what does it mean to have a culture?
Mm.
How do you define a culture?
Well, how do you define a culture?
I mean, let me be honest, guys. When we were talking about this topic, I thought about the first time when I knew I was black or referred to myself as black. And from a child standpoint, I just thought I was black because that was the color of my skin compared to other people. I'm black. I'm black. I look black, so they call me black. Like it was as basic as that.
Mhm.
But obviously, as we've gotten older and I was exposed to more of what blackness is, I realized it's much deeper than the color of one's skin, because I met other brown
Mhm.
people like me who did not refer to them, were actually offended to be referred to as black. So then it just left me very confused. I was like, okay, I thought this meant we were black, but you're telling me don't call you black because you don't identify with black. And then it became, do you hate yourself? I mean, it just got so complicated.
Yeah.
In terms of what black means to me is not necessarily what it means to someone else, even though we may look alike, or even though I assume we have had the same experience in terms of our heritage. So, I mean, as we're talking about this, and I saw your list, Tally, of, beliefs, culture, I feel like it's a melting pot of all of those things. But the only thing is, whatever scoop of you take out of the pot could be different. You know what I mean? Like, some people have more beliefs than they do culture. Some people have more, I don't know. Go ahead.
I have a dangerous proposition that I would like to share, and that is because blackness, just like whiteness, is an invention. It is not a physiological, biological reality. It certainly doesn't mean complexion. I mean, look at the four of us. We're all different complexions, so it's not a complexion. It can't simply be a culture, because there are black people who don't like fried chicken or watermelon. It can't be beliefs. I'm convinced that what blackness means in the United States of America, in the context that we're living in, blackness means that which is not acceptable as white.
Mm.
So, that the use of black in this country wasn't telling you who you were. It was telling you who you were not.
Oh, mercy.
Oh,
gosh.
And we embraced it and started defining ourselves as we're the who nots.
Yeah, I'm with you with that. Yeah. What? I mean, black, white, all that stuff is just social constructs, right?
Well, let me write this down.
He's surprised you agree with them.
I know you surprised
on this day.
No, but I mean, it's a social construct, right? There's no such thing black and white. It was all created, as Miguel said, to promote, slavery and division, And so when I think of blackness, I put it like this, and I was going to save this to the end, but I might as well just say it now. When I was in seminary with Dr. Jones, he was teaching a class called Black Preaching, right? But before, he would ask, in the beginning of the first two classes, he would ask everybody, what is black preaching? And everybody would go around the room defining what black preaching is. And he never answered the question. He waited to the very end. And then he showed us different sermons, different styles of black preaching. Black preaching in Riverside Church in Manhattan. Yeah. It's not a lot of, not very expressive. Then he showed us other sermons that was very expressive. And then he would always ask the question, which one is black preaching? They hear the different preachers say which one is black preaching, which one is it. Hear them wrestle with that. He never answered the question. By the way, he just left it out there. But the conclusion, what I took away from that class on black preaching was that if you're black and you're preaching,
That's black
That's
preaching.
black
that's
preaching.
black preaching. you know, and he never answered it. And so I think about that because we're not monolithic, right?
Mhm.
So you can't put anybody in a box. Like some people, my wife, she's very, very articulate. So you know the stigma that comes with that. People say,
Mhm.
"Oh, you sound like you trying to sound white."
White.
Yeah, I've always hated that.
Who is the one that says if you're articulate that sounds white?
Right.
You know, so yeah, just wanted to throw that out there. I
Yeah,
see you
there's a
shaking
more
your head, Tyler. What you
So there's a more polite way that they say that now. They always what they say now is, you're so well spoken.
There you go.
Mhm. But the disbelief in their eyes is like,
Yeah.
for
I
a
mean,
black person, yeah.
Yes.
so we haven't gotten even remotely close to defining what blackness is.
Well, I think, like you've mentioned before, I think we have to recognize that there are different
Layers.
layers to that, different versions of that. The black experience for someone living in South Carolina is very different from the black experience living in, Compton, Los Angeles, right? And I say that because, in terms of the definition of culture, culture is birthed out of set of rules, beliefs centered around our survival. And so surviving South Carolina is very different than surviving in, Alaska. Our environment informs those cultural beliefs, and so we are all black. Yes, I'm not. I struggle with this part. If I do qualify as an African American per se, I am born in America, but I'm not sure if I can truly say I'm actually African American. But I am definitely black. I will say black people are folks descendant of Africa. Um, you mentioned West Africa. Do we consider Kenyans black by that point?
No, well, we when we talk about enslavement, the majority of them came from
They're
West
from West
Africa.
Africa.
Yeah,
Yes.
but I mean, the Great Lakes region in Africa had their diaspora as well. I mean, but well, is Clarence Thomas black?
Yes.
Yeah, he's black.
All right. Okay.
No, it depends on what question you're
Just gonna
asking.
leave that right there.
Depending
See,
on
depends on the question you're asking. Are you asking on paper if he's black, or culturally is he accepted as black?
Oh, well, okay, let's start defining what is black culture. Because I saw Grissom say that it is cultural. If black is based on culture, somebody define what black culture is.
Yeah, and I gotta say right before we even try to answer that, again, we're not monolithic. So you gonna get yourself. I mean, I'm from Miguel. We're from Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Right. People in Queens have a different culture than people from Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And we're right next to each other.
Yeah.
So
well, I mean, let's be broad then. I mean, because we're the ones saying that black is a cultural thing. What does it mean to be black from a cultural perspective?
Mhm.
Does it mean you have rhythm?
Tyler, I think you could answer by saying what does it not mean? I can say that.
Well, I've already staked out my territory that I'm discovering in this country, black means that which is not acceptable as white.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't, I think about, I've seen so many like skits and stuff done on, people getting their black cards revoked. And a lot of times it has to do with one, if they don't have rhythm, like if they can't dance, they don't know the electric slide. That's like, one of the biggest offenses. Like you mentioned earlier, Tally, if you don't like fried chicken and watermelon, like these are some of the, I mean, they sound silly.
Yeah.
If you don't know, you may not speak Ebonics, but you need to know what it means. Like you need to know what some of the slang and terminology of the culture means.
Yeah, I'm down with that.
Yeah, you got to have a little swag.
Well, I mean, everybody give me one item of culture that identifies as black. Seeing that we've all said it.
Well, said hip hop. You said hip hop, like the music.
Okay, so Eminem is black.
I think black culture is birthed out of black trauma.
Okay.
And so really.
Now, what is black trauma?
How much time do we have? So
Just give me a little bit.
We could talk about some of those lessons that we learned coming out of slavery. So whether that's the food, right? So in America, it's oxtails. In the Caribbean, it's oxtail. These are scraps that were given to us and prepared. So identifying with the food, identifying with the rules. To survive, we say things like if you see a bunch of black folks running one way, the rule of thumb is you run with them, because in our thinking, this is safety for us, right? You asked me for examples.
But that's not culture. That's activity. I mean, look, if I see people running, I might, first of all, I ain't running no how, because my hip don't hop no more. But I mean, when it comes to for example, oppression,
Mm-hmm.
or rhythm, like you may mention hip hop. Eminem, look, when I remember the first time he won a Grammy for hip hop, black folks got upset. I mean, so white people can do hip hop as well. When it comes to oppression, the Irish were oppressed over by Great Britain like nobody's business. I mean, and so oppression is not simply the private province of black people in the United States of America. So a lot of people have known oppression, some by their own people and others by people who did not look like them. So if it's oppression, then
Yeah. And Tyler, I just want to say this. So I was in the military. In the military, you it's a melting pot. It's people from all over.
Right.
And you'll bump into people in the military. Some white people never been around black people before.
Mm-hmm.
And then you bump into some black people on occasion that grew up in some small town. They were the only black people in that town.
Mm.
So they're not familiar with a lot of things from the inner city. And some people would joke on them and clown them, but the truth of the matter is they're still black, even though they don't know what the hip hop slang and this, they still black. So you asked me the question, or you asked the question about Clarence Thomas. I mean, again, if you're black, whatever you're doing, that's what it means to be black.
Yeah.
So
That's not,
Edith just
that's
said,
scary.
I know black is what black people do.
Yeah, because how can we say if you didn't go through oppression? Well, you just answered that. You just spoke to that. How can you say
So-
if you didn't?
I mean, Jews went through oppression.
That's what I'm saying.
So they're black.
What I'm saying. Yeah.
So the only common
black?
denominator.
Oh, wait a minute.
No.
No. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying, Tally, is to define it. We're gonna run into problems, because no matter what, we're not monolithic. You will find that in other cultures. No matter what you pick, you'll find those different things in other cultures.
Is there a common denominator? I mean,
that's a good question.
there has to be a common denominator.
There's something that says, that's black,
But that's why I went to the food, right? So it's not just that we went through oppression. It's because of oppression, there were certain byproducts that we left, some tools, some expressions,
like pig feed, and
that's a part of it,
Okay, now I'm just pump the brakes for you just a second.
He's setting you up, man. You know that, right?
I'm willing to go down the road. I'm okay.
But you guys might not be old enough to remember the television show called The Beverly Hillbillies.
Mm.
The Beverly Hillbillies featured some people from Appalachia or from the Piedmont area, some, really poor white people who hit, struck oil, got so rich that they moved to Beverly Hills, but they took their culture with them. They ate the same thing that poor black people ate.
Absolutely.
Poor black people in the South ate the same thing as poor white people in the South.
Yes.
And so it wasn't, eating sow belly and pig trotters and pig ears and all of that stuff. Tasha just showed everybody that she was born and raised Adventist. Just showed everybody. I said pig ears, and I said that, Governor. How banal. I mean, but look, I can remember in my neighborhood, on New Year's coming, you could smell the chitlins all throughout the neighborhood.
It's tradition.
It's a
Good luck.
tradition.
It's supposed to be good luck.
Good luck. Good
Yeah.
chitlins and black eyed peas
Black
and
eyed
rice.
peas. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, and so, but poor white people in Kentucky and Arkansas, they were eating the exact same thing.
I don't think Black culture
Look at Carrie.
is absolutely unique.
Yeah.
It's absolutely unique in certain things. I don't think we invented all things. We definitely shared some of that. Well, let me say, Southern Black culture shares some of those similarities with Southern white culture as well. But that's what I'm saying. Like, it depends on what Black you're talking about, because we established that there are various groups of Black. So, are we saying Black Southern? Are we saying Black Northerners? Are we saying Black Westerners?
One cultural touchstone that we can say this is Black, and I have not gotten. If y'all don't get I'm going to turn white. If y'all don't get me one.
I don't have an answer. I don't have an answer, but I do want to say this. During the halftime show, I know it's trying to define Blackness. We'll be here all day for that, right? So during the halftime show,
is Keenan.
What do you think about? No, I'm saying it's some other thing. This is part of it. I'm just throwing this into it. Relax.
Okay.
So Serena Williams, she crip walked right during the halftime show. Let me ask you all: is that the gang culture? Is that part of what it means to be Black?
Not for me.
Really? I mean, it was born out of the gang culture.
Was Black culture born out of the gang culture?
No, crip walking.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't want my identity to be defined by a gang.
Well, I mean, for example, guys wearing their pants or sagging around their rear ends was born out of prison culture. And so, I mean, if it comes from the culture, you got to own that that's where it comes from. And crip walking, you keep it gangster, y'all. Keep it gangster. That comes from.
Somebody needs to clip that, please.
I know, right? I'm like, oh, let me see what your leg's doing. But
not much.
but I think that's a little bit of the tension with Blackness, because there are those things that have a positive connotation, like our music and our artistry, our creativity, the things that we see, our how well we do with sports and those things like that, our athleticism. Those are the
Larry Bird, Luka Doncic.
No, I mean, I'm not saying there are not others, but those are the things that we are quote unquote known for, or but then on the other side, you have, like you were saying, the gang culture, the ghetto-ness of things,
Ooh, she went there.
Yeah,
Might as well, huh?
And it's like some people are torn between.
What does that mean, Latasha, the ghetto-ness?
Yeah.
I put in quotation marks, but
we can quote all you want. We still don't know what you mean by that.
And I'm not even talking about
us, Keenan. Go ahead.
I'm not
that's why I had to
about
pause for a second.
ghetto-ness in terms of where you live. Okay, I'm talking about ghetto-ness in the way that you act.
What does it mean to act ghetto?
Listen, I have no problem giving my personal interpretation of ghetto behavior. Okay. So
you haven't said anything yet. You just keep using
you guys.
words.
I'm telling you. Like, for instance, I think it's really ghetto when you're in a store and you're yelling on your phone or to the person beside you. That's ghetto. Like, why are you yelling? Why does everyone around you have to be involved in your conversation? It's like you don't care that other people are around. There's like no decorum about you. I feel like that's ghetto behavior.
There's a psychological basis for that. And that is, Black people have been placed into such privation that the way you carve out space is the same way a rattlesnake does. You make a certain noise and people know to stay back. And so carving out your space through noise and, being, a certain level of loudness, that's the psychology behind it.
Right. And that's part of it that it just makes me uncomfortable.
It's still ghetto, no matter what you're saying.
I just feel like that's ghetto behavior. I just feel like that's ghetto behavior to do things like
no matter
that.
what, it's still ghetto, is what she's saying.
Like
I'm
when you
talking to Tasha right now, y'all.
I'm not. No, you gotta be louder than that.
Oh, okay, she the
Because
gangster,
people
y'all.
next
We
And
door.
what is loud, Latasha? What's your level of?
When you're talking at an octave where people, if you're in the store and 3 aisles over, people can still hear what you're saying, that's too loud. Like, come on. Like, why do we need to be involved in that?
So is that
And
black?
usually,
Is that the black
you're-
or that's just ghetto? So you saying you separating the
Listen,
two?
y'all not gonna do this to Tasha on this good Sunday.
I'm
Y'all are
asking her.
cornering her, okay? She's just trying
you
to get
see
her
what they're
thoughts
doing to
out.
me? I am getting listen. Listen. These are the types of things that I teach my children. I have no problem with. Like, don't ever do that. Don't do that. When you go out into public, put on proper clothing. Okay.
What does that mean again?
See? All right. So listen.
Listen. I'm just saying.
Now, what was mentioned in terms of gang culture? I think there has to be a separation. Like, crip walking comes out of hip hop culture. Now, is hip hop culture?
No.
Crip walking became popular because of hip hop.
Okay, you're saying because, but it didn't come out of hip hop culture,
right? It came out of gang culture.
Yeah,
gang culture kind of influenced hip hop, right? And hip hop is circulating the world at such a rapid pace. I think we got to be careful to not make blackness and hip hop synonymous. You know, I think that's the danger that we have right now, where if you don't know certain songs, you're not quite black enough. You know, I think that's where we get into certain dangers. Defining blackness simply by hip hop, which is a media product. You know, it is mass consumed. I don't think it properly defines or tries to really fully define blackness, but unfortunately it becomes the default settings for a lot of people as to what blackness should be or is.
So how do you feel about Serena Williams? Crip walk?
I didn't care for it.
How come? Was it too ghetto for you?
That doesn't bother me. I think
notice they're above us, Keenan. They're above us on the screen, the two of them.
And we are properly placed. I would say my frustration is gang culture has done more harm than good for our communities. I understand the psychology and all that kind of stuff. I understand the history. I have friends that used to be in gangs or whatever the case may be. But I've seen too many lives lost by gang culture for me to then celebrate a symbol of it and not be uncomfortable with it. That's my frustration with that.
Yeah, Miguel, I'm asking you the question, but I feel the same way.
Yeah.
And I got some pushback from that. They said, some people said, well, that's part of black culture.
You know.
And I'm like, no, that's gang culture.
Yeah, it's like, do you know how to separate the two?
Yeah.
If you from any inner city where you had now the gangs, Crips and the Bloods, they both started off, you know, they're a byproduct of the Black Panthers, you know, but then it kind of just, and then it just, you know, it morphed into something completely negative. Black Panthers, yeah, that's what it is, right? But they morphed into something negative and they terrorized community. So I can't celebrate that either. But even to push it a little further, y'all might disagree with me on this, but we're the upsetters, right? The whole Kendrick Lamar halftime show, I appreciate it. The whole Uncle Sam bit, with what is it, Samuel Jackson, I appreciate all that. But at the end of the day, that song, They Not Like Us, right, is a diss song, right? So he on this grand big stage and he's dissing another brother, you know. And I had some, I was like, he's known for being positive, but this is what he's pushed out there for something negative. So I also had some slight issue with that.
It was kind of a mix because there was an appreciation for some of the things he brought to light with, you know, showing the demonstration of Black people pretty much building America, and yet, you know, the same place that we built is sought to oppress us. And, you know, so there was so much to appreciate with the symbolism. But I hear what you're saying at the same time, because it's like for us, as long as we get that's right, it's almost like we don't care what you do. We don't care what you do after that. You get a pass sometimes because you spoke some truth, and so everything else is kind of like, yeah, we'll wink at that part. But I'm kind of
like Denzel Washington. He had to be crooked before he took it.
Yeah,
he played a girl. I just watched Malcolm X. He should have won an Oscar for that. He get an Oscar for playing a crooked cop. You know, same thing with Halle Berry. You know what she had to do to get an Oscar, and so he gets all these Grammys. He got it for other songs too, but he got it for "They Not Like Us," which is a diss song. This is another brother. So
I'm more so in the gray on that one, Keenan.
What you mean, Drake being another brother? You mean? Come on, keep it gangster, yo.
Well, all right. So the gray for me is yes. I can see the frustration with possibly tearing down another brother on such a international platform. The world was literally watching, right?
Yeah.
And not only that, there is a thought that, there is a thought within our community, and I'm not sure if it's well articulated yet. I'm not sure if I have the right wording here, but that we'll root for you on the way up, and then we are waiting for you to fall. That there is a limit to your success. I'm not saying this is Drake's situation, but there have been rumblings, from different bloggers on that kind of stuff, rumors about some of the backhanded deals that he may have had on all that kind of stuff. So on one side, people are celebrating it because it looks like a David and Goliath kind of situation. Although Kendrick Lamar has a history of
both Goliaths,
but people are petitioning it or position them as David and Goliath. Drake is this.
He's more well known, maybe.
Correct. This huge international star, really a pop star. And Kendrick is this kind of like a backpack rapper, underground rapper style individual.
I mean,
clearly he's not that at this point in time. So I can see that issue kind of rising up. At the end of the day, halftime show is in fact entertainment. And it is entertainment, and people were asking for it.
I thought it was.
I mean, were we frustrated when Snoop was singing last year, or Crip walking? Was it last year or 2 years ago? Were we as frustrated? When there were references about breaking women's heart or breaking somebody's heart that shows up on these platforms or these lyrics and these songs. I think if we were to kind of measure all the performances, we would have grievances with everything.
Well, did you notice Carrie Williams, who her point about?
Yeah, I don't think that changes anything, no.
Yeah, because she still did the Crip walk for the victory dance.
The wisdom of Carrie.
Yeah, because the issue was not. I mean, I got her point, and I was happy to bring light to that. That she was bringing light to that, because often as Black people, we are in a situation where we feel like we have to, dim our light or, act right in the presence of other company and stuff like that. So it's like you always feel like you can't really truly be yourself. So I could see that, being a liberating moment.
Like when you're on the phone in the store. Is that what you?
Yes.
I mean, so the two of you gentlemen didn't like the fact that Serena Williams showed her rhythmic athletic ability by doing the coordinated dance commonly known as a Crip walk, which was actually, as one of our podcast partners said, started by Henry Crip Hurd, who only had one leg, and then it was
I didn't even know that history.
Yeah. But then it was adopted. I mean, and many people call it the Crypt walk, CRYPT, like somebody's dead. But it's actually Crip after the gang.
Yeah.
The Crips. But from what
after a gang.
Yeah, after what the gang didn't invent it, they just kind of
adopted it.
Yeah. They also got a blood walk as well. Yeah.
Okay. So, but I mean, to be honest with you, it is actually a lot of fun to watch.
I mean, I'm not gonna deny that.
It's entertaining.
But Miggs and Keenan said that she shouldn't have done it because
No, I didn't say
No,
she shouldn't
Mix.
have done it.
Yeah, you put words there.
Yeah,
Oh,
Mix didn't
yeah,
say
I'm
that.
like,
I was the one that said I understand that, kind of.
On the Keenan and Mix said they didn't like it.
I ain't
What we
particularly
said,
care for it. Yeah.
what we said is because of what the history
It
that's
wasn't black
attached.
enough for you, or
No, I think it represents darker days in our past.
Yeah.
oh, really?
Yeah.
And
It's a
see,
trauma.
Miggs, I mean, you could speak for yourself, Miggs, but we're both from Brooklyn. And Miggs, I think I'm a little bit older than you. But in my generation, we didn't have Bloods and Crips in New York City. But the generation after me, my little brother, and I think about your age, that's when the Bloods and Crips in New York City. It started in the jail system, but that's when it just took off. And I saw these kids when I'm in high school. I saw these middle schoolers carrying around book bags, and ain't no books in those bags. Those are nothing but guns. They Bloods, Crips claiming their set and terrorized the city. So when I think of Crips and gangs and all that, I have that negative connotation in my mind.
Yeah, and there's no amount of rebranding that could be done to try to put a positive spin to terrorism, right?
Yeah.
I remember being in middle school, and there was a guy. He was the shortest in our class, and he was bright, bubbly individual. Then he got to high school, joined a gang, and you could literally see the darkness on him. I'm not sure if he's still alive, to be honest with you. So to me, it represents that. I remember having to avoid certain parks because I couldn't play there,
I grew up in North Philadelphia when North Philadelphia was the gang capital of the country. More gang deaths in Philadelphia than any other city, including Los Angeles. We used to laugh at Los Angeles because they needed a car to shoot somebody, We would take SEPTA. We'd get on a bus, I mean, Philadelphia.
Did you say we?
I mean, the boys.
Oh, okay.
You're not like us, Tyler.
Let me tell you, God saved me. I was not a gangster, but I certainly wasn't, who I am now. But I remember wanting to buy. I wore the boots that gangsters wore. We wore our hats a certain way, and it becomes a part of your culture. And you guys are saying that culture is very important with identification of blackness. And so, but I wasn't a gangster per se, but that's right, Williams. We get on PTC before SEPTA, but it's. I mean, some things, they have their own artistic element, even if they're associated with bad things. Like, for example, Crip Walk is associated with gangsters, but it takes a lot of skill.
Yeah. I was gonna. It's true, and it's cool to watch, And I think too with the music too. I think you referenced that, Miguel. It being incorporated into music. A lot of times, some people don't even know they don't even know. They just see it in a music video and they're thinking it's a cool dance. They don't even realize that they don't associate it with the gang. They don't even know. They're just going along with what they see.
I mean, if you're a teenager in South Korea, you have no idea where this is coming from. But to you, it's showing up on your screen.
You're like,
it looks cool. Yeah, I'm gonna do this. So yeah.
I'm looking at
that's a good one, Louis Manuel.
Yeah,
can you put that one in? No, not that one. Not that
one. I came directly.
I look like the manager from McDonald's.
Doing a service. I was doing a church to get a chance to change. That's pretty good, Louise. That's pretty good.
More like McDowell's.
Oh, he coming for you, Tom. You got to know.
He's coming at me hard. Man. Coming at me real
He's probably
hard.
one of your best friends. I know.
I don't know who it is.
He loves us. He's from Philly. See, told you.
Okay.
At McDowell's.
But let me just ask a question. If it's culture, then that means white people can be black.
If that's how y'all defining it, then you are right. If that's how you're defining, then Eminem would be black. If that's how you define, that's why I didn't say that. I didn't say it's culture because of that right there.
No, I think we said there was a hodgepodge of multiple elements that defines blackness, including being a descendant of Africa. But there are some cultural aspects of it as well. So you can partake of black culture but not be black.
So, but being a
we never defined what was black culture.
Well, being a descendant of Africa is black culture, right, Migs?
You said what?
Being a descendant of Africa.
I said it's one of the elements.
Elon Musk.
Right. So Elon Musk is black.
Yeah.
One of the elements of
We're following you.
Also, it's a checklist. It's a checklist.
Oh my God.
There's a checklist here.
You even know who we are?
You know,
See,
I mean,
he's not. I mean, he was born there, but his folks are Dutch, are they not?
He's still from Africa.
Yeah. I mean, well, everybody who is white in Africa is from Europe. I mean, they don't have any native white people in Africa.
Right.
But the thing, I guess I stick with my definition that there's a great book by Nell Painter. I shared it with Keenan earlier. Dr. Nell Painter is an esteemed academician, retired from Princeton University with an endowed chair. She wrote a book called The History of White People, where she talks about the fact that whiteness is an invented definition, just like blackness is.
I'm sorry. I saw the black pie test. I'm sorry. I had to pumpkin or sweet potato. But anyway,
I was in my 20s before I tasted pumpkin pie. I didn't know. To me, the only thing when I thought of pumpkin pie, all I could think was pumpkin seeds, and I couldn't imagine a pie made out of that.
The actual pumpkin.
But whiteness and blackness was non-existent. For example, when people try to read blackness or whiteness into the Bible, it's non-existent there. You know,
social construct.
Yeah,
it's a social construct, and so blackness. And when we try to, for example, we talk about we're gonna have black church. That is a non-definitive statement. It doesn't mean anything.
But we know what we interpret it as.
I'm not sure if we, I'm not sure.
So again, Tally, from what you're saying, we can't define it. It goes back to your opening monologue with the whole the bullseye going, because we're not monolithic.
It's like when somebody says potato salad and everybody thinks that they know what's in it. And everybody, your aunt makes it different from my grandma.
There not be no raisins in it.
No raisins. We know that, right? See? Those are the things that get your black carb revoked. I've seen it.
You have shredded carrots in your potato salad?
I've had carrots before.
Do you put them in yours?
I don't.
Okay, see? I mean, so it's culture shifts, folk ways and mores shifts. And I'm thinking when we say black, we're talking about something that gives us an inner sense of comfort, but it is a non-definitive statement. Keep it black. What does that mean?
Well, how about we ask? I'm really curious since we have a lot of engagement in the chat.
Yeah.
I want to know from those who are watching, what if you're black? Well,
even if you're not black,
better yet, even if you're not black.
With white folks who told you
right.
It's true.
This is true. I'm sorry.
It's true.
This is right. Anyone. This is open question. When you hear black or blackness, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Somebody on their phone in the grocery store.
I hope not, because I really would like to know that. And while they're putting those responses in the chat, I know we were talking before about, even during the presidential election and even when Obama was running, of course, their blackness came into question. Are they really black? Are they conveniently black when they need the black vote? Or can they, I know Trump was really hard on Kamala about, her code switching, if you will. And that became even a thing in politics. And even some of us did not vote for Obama or Kamala Harris because we didn't feel like they were really black.
And very high for Obama.
Yeah, that's
very
true. That's
high,
true.
The 90%.
But I've heard black people say, even if they voted, he's not. We're still not going to claim him as black. Like, we don't care. Like, we might like him as president. And it's like, okay, well, do they have a point? Because I remember someone once said, if you can't hail a cab in New York City, that means you're black. Have you guys ever heard that? Like,
that might have changed after 2001.
Yeah.
It's like no matter what you identify yourself is what the world sees you as. That's what you are, is what they were trying to say. Like, if they see you coming and they consider you black, then you may as well go ahead and assume the identity because that's how you're going to be treated in society.
Well, you made a point. I mean, we have some very interesting and astute people in the chat. And in the few minutes we have left, I'd love for them to give us a definition of, some metric that they use to say that this is black or this is black or something like that.
Yeah. Or I think there's a tension between. Somebody mentioned the classes, right? So, not being black enough, or kind of not identifying with the cultural norms, right, of being black to certain groups of people means not speaking with Ebonics, having proper English, not avoiding certain items, for the food. I don't eat pumpkin pie, or I don't eat fried chicken, so.
Or I don't do those water sports, or I don't, we don't go out hiking, and now all of that is changing. Okay, we're seeing some responses come in. Donna was saying that the color of your skin and texture of hair, because in Guyana, blackness was based on the color and texture. So once again, it shows you based on where you're from. This is what we're talking.
Guyana has a lot of Indians.
When they pull you over for no reason. We've known that has been a real issue, driving while black. Melanin and culture minus European influence.
And there's that catch-all phrase culture again, but I get it. I get what you're saying there. That's
all
good.
right. And Curls of a CPA says anyone with 1% black in them is black to me.
The one drop.
Even if they didn't grow up that way.
That is the one that is based on the most strident racism that exists. Because I said before, because black, it means you are disqualified because you're not white. Right. That's like saying that you mate, a German, a poodle, a purebred poodle with another dog that's 99% poodle and 1% German Shepherd. But then you call the offspring of that pairing a German Shepherd because it has 1% German Shepherd in it. And to say that a black person who has a white person who has 1% black in them is black is just pure racism.
That one drop.
Yeah, the one drop.
Well, they said it's like having milk. It's like having milk, and then you put a little drop of chocolate syrup in it. If it turns really light brown, then
it's no longer.
No, that's okay. More responses are coming. It starts with skin color and then your social interactions.
Okay.
What you all white town.
So let me.
Culture.
So the guy that's light skinned, that's super light skinned, so he's not black.
So is Drake not black?
Yeah.
You said Drake is not black. What'd you say?
Was he not black before he became a hip hop artist? He was on Degrassi.
I don't know.
Look, I mean, Canadian boy comes down to the United States. All of a sudden, he from he throwing up gang signs from the hood.
Yeah, see,
I don't have a lot of regard.
That's
for
perpetrating me.
Yeah, so he's not like us.
Go ahead, Tasha just went to the ghetto.
I'm just saying, don't perpetrate.
Next thing she could be doing is hollering into her phone.
You will never ever find me doing that ever. But no, I mean, I'm happy to hear or see from our audience some of the responses, because there's another one there. Jimmy Carter versus Berry Gordy. It was Jimmy Carter,
grandson of Berry Gordy or something like that, or I can't remember the story between the two. I think one of the presidents was related to Berry Gordy.
I don't know if it was Jimmy Carter or not, but see, down in the South, white people lived right next to black people and shared, space. The rule was in the South, we don't care how close you get, just don't get too big. And in the North, it was, we don't care how big you get, just don't get too close. And so there was shared culture in the South, but I get it. They were cousins, so okay.
All right, we have another one here. I know we got to wrap up. Black to me is an aesthetic thing, primarily to the way you look. I don't think that biracial people are black. I think they're biracial.
Mercy.
That's
a whole nother topic, because there are a lot of people, biracial people that I know who are friends of mine. If we as black people have a trouble defining what it means to be black, imagine when you have a black parent and a white parent or of another
So Tiger
ethnicity.
Woods is not black? Well, you know he doesn't identify as being black. That's why I said that.
All right, here's another one. Skin color mainly, that is what we see. And if we enter a room with non-black folks, we can be easily identified. And that's kind of what I was saying. If when others see you, they see you as black. I mean, but at the same time, you can't be defined by how others see you. But yet, that's how you're treated. So you end up.
It's a part of it.
Well, Yaya Drew said, she said no, the Tiger Woods. I think she's saying Tiger Woods is not black. Is that what we're saying? Is that what we're putting out? He can't come to the barbecue?
Yeah, I've heard this before from those who've come from other countries, that they really had to learn this whole tension, black and white labeling and all that stuff once they came over here. And
well, look, I assure you that Patrice Lumumba in the Congo understood the difference between what it meant to be African and European, especially along racial lines. But Frederick Douglass was biracial.
Yes, he was. Sure was.
So I'm guessing some of our folks were saying that he wasn't black.
Yeah, you say Frederick Douglass was not black. Lord have mercy.
So when we say, as we wrap up, Happy Black History Month,
if you're black. Well, I don't know how to crip walk though. You okay?
I don't eat pig feet and pig ears. So
this is why some people don't even know what to do with the holiday, because they don't know. I mean, the month, because they don't know. Sometimes they don't know how to identify with it. Even particularly some from the Caribbean and other places.
Wait, Latasha. If you from the Caribbean, you experienced colonialism. From Africa, you still experience colonialism and imperialism. So we all experienced the struggle. It may look a little different, but we all experienced the struggle.
There's
the first
movement.
Time we're ending.
There's a movement called was it the African Descendants of Slaves, something like that, ADOS. They will say that we are not included in this month. That's their claim. One of their claims. If you are part of the diaspora, you're not like us.
Well, I'm just glad that we cleared it up.
I think it's crystal clear now.
Yes. What does it mean to be black? Cleared it up.
And I think the general answer is,
Tasha said that's why in Metro they cover all the cultures of blackness, because it varies. It really does.
And that is, I think, I will stick to the territory I staked out earlier. And that is that blackness is a social construct that is basically defining what you are not and what you cannot be, the privileges you cannot own.
Absolutely.
And as such, our intense focusing on blackness is basically focusing on a definition that was handed to us by people who were disqualifying us with the definition. Now, if you say, are you Nigerian? If you say, are you Zulu or are you Yoruba? That's something different, but.
I know we have to wrap up, but I'm still torn by, Black pride. There's so much we talk about trying to instill this sense of pride in our children and those that come after us about and it's almost like, what are we really telling them? I mean, we share the stories of significant people in history and what they've accomplished, and because they've done it, that means you can do it.
Well, based on my definition that I shared earlier, I would suggest to you that when we start talking about Black pride, what we're talking about is individuals who have been denied because of, quote, what they are not, and under-resourced because of that, are able to still achieve and transcend it. And we are proud for those who went through an experience of being denied and disenfranchised, but who overcame those things. And that kind of pride, we call it Black pride, but it's basically the pride of a disenfranchised, denied people. It's a pride in the indomitable quality of the human spirit. There you go.
I like that.
Yeah. And Latasha, I just want to say this, in Virginia, they had this thing called, the Bacon's Rebellion. I don't know if y'all heard of that before.
Yeah.
And, with Bacon, he pretty much was white, indentured servant. He got out of slave as indentured servant. He did his time, and he wanted a piece of the pie. He was denied that. So he got with other blacks, Indians, and they pretty much almost burnt down Virginia. And so the government was like, okay, we have to separate them two.
Yeah.
And so the whole race thing came about. All right, y'all blacks, y'all over there, y'all gonna be slaves for life. The whites, okay, y'all be indentured slaves, but eventually one day y'all could be like us. Same thing, same story with the Civil War, same exact thing. And so as Tally so eloquently said, this social construct of race was created to keep us divided between the have and the have-nots. And so celebrating Black history, for me, is just seeing those that were put in that position and how they overcame. So that's what I tend to look towards and celebrate.
Absolutely.
Well, I will recommend another book beside the book, The History of White People, Khalil Gibran Muhammad's book, The Condemnation of Blackness, which talks about how the expression blackness, and one of y'all must have been talking too loud on your phone in the supermarket because
she got upset.
Yeah, Tasha just left, and I guess we were too ghetto for her.
You was crip walking too much, Tom.
That might have been it. But Condemnation of Blackness is a great book by Khalil Muhammad that talks about how blackness was used to further subdivide people and to criminalize them, so forth and so on.
Absolutely. And so while we're waiting for Latasha, Dr. Norman Miles, he shared this with me, because Dr. Norman Miles, a former pastor, retired pastor, Allegheny East, and he got his PhD in history. And he shared with me that during the Civil War, the majority of the white people in the South, they could not even afford to own a slave.
Yeah, right.
It was probably a small percentage who had the percentage they had 10 or 12 slaves. And then you had the plantations that had hundreds of slaves. Those were few and far in between. So Civil War comes around, and how can these rich white people get these poor white people who don't even own a slave? How can you get them to fight a war for you? And what they did was they told them, they said, look, they're different. They're not like us. Like those blacks, they're always going to be slaves. But you poor white people, you poor white people, one day you can be like us. Make America great again. One day you could be rich just like us. And they got these poor white people to fight their war for. So that whole race thing, is being used to diabolically, divide us.
Well, speaking of dividing us, brethren, I sense that, even though it's against our theology, it appears that the rapture has taken place and that Tasha...
No, it has not, because Miggs is still here.
Oh, okay. Man, thank you. That relieved me. I thought we were doomed.
Now, you're still here. I was like, maybe, but Miggs is still here.
But it's been great having this conversation, and I guess it's time for us to sign off without our fearless leader, and it's always a pleasure.
Are we able to sign off?
Oh yeah, we just hit that button that says bye.
It's going to keep running.
Yeah, it might keep running, but it'll run without us. But
I know that's right.
So until next week, folks, we want to thank you so much for being a part of our conversation. We hope that you keep it black.
Keep it 100.
Keep it Christian, y'all. Keep it Christian. and we will see you again next week right here on the UpSet Podcast. Miggs, Keenan, have a great one now.
All right, y'all. God bless. Peace.
All right. We're out, everybody.